For the first time since 2022, the Philadelphia Eagles will be the NFC's number one seed this season. I got more NFL predictions for you coming up next, right here on Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome in to this Friday edition of the show. I'm your host, Louis DiBiase. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. The Eagles kick off the 2025 NFL season for everybody next Thursday night. Eagles-Cowboys at Lincoln Financial Field. Make sure you're subscribing to Locked On Eagles on all podcast platforms, on YouTube as well. We got 5 solo shows for you a week. We've got 2 live hour-long squad shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays, post-game shows, YouTube shorts, TikToks, you name it. We are churning out content as the 2025 season is about to get underway. As the NFL season is less than a week away, as we always do the week before the season starts, we're going to do our year-long NFL predictions on today's edition of the show. So I'm going to predict the playoff teams for the NFC, for the AFC, who wins those playoff games. I have my head-to-head Super Bowl matchup. I'll have my head pick. I'll have my heart pick. I'll also go into the individual awards, my predictions for those as well. Who wins MVP? Defensive, Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, all that and more coming your way on this Friday edition of the show. As I said, to lead the podcast, I do think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be the number one seed this year, and I think that is the key, maybe more than anything. Obviously, staying healthy is so important, but when it comes to what the Eagles have to do to repeat as Super Bowl champions, and only 2 teams have been able to do that in the 21st century. It was the New England Patriots in the early 2000s, and it was the Kansas City Chiefs in 2022 and 2023. If the Eagles are going to do something that only a handful of teams have done in league history, and we know across all of sports, it's very difficult, getting the number one seed is as important as anything. Because when you look at what teams have won championships, what teams have consistently won championships, who has repeated, 9 times out of 10 at least, those teams have had home field advantage. When you look at the Eagles' seasons that they've either won a Super Bowl or made a Super Bowl since 2004, they've been to 4 Super Bowls in the 21st century. They had home field advantage throughout the postseason in all of those years. Like, yeah, there is the 2008 season at times where you miraculously go on the road and become Warriors and get all the way to the NFC Championship game. You look at 2018, they almost shocked the world again and got back to the NFC title as a 6th seed. But the majority of the time, if you're going to be a serious Super Bowl contender, you got to have at least the 2 seed. And now in the NFL, with the way it's currently seeded with only 1 bye week per conference, getting the 1 seed is more important than ever. I mean, 2024, because Detroit lost, the playoffs ran through the link. We saw how crucial that was in winning a championship. Luckily, the Commanders beat Detroit. If the Lions win that game and the Eagles have to go to Detroit, I still think they win that game, but their path just got a lot harder. 2022, the playoffs ran through the link. They got to the Super Bowl. 2017, the playoffs went through the link. They got to and won a championship. So I think they need to get the 1 seed this year, and I do think they're going to do it. I know the schedule is really difficult, but you look across the NFC landscape, I still think even with Micah Parsons going to Green Bay yesterday, and I really like what the Packers look like on paper, I still think the Eagles are in a tier of their own. So let me break it down. Here are my 7 teams that make the playoffs in the NFC. I have the Eagles as the 1 seed. So I do have the Green Bay Packers after adding Micah Parsons. If they stay healthy this year, they had a lot of things go not their way last season, and they still won 11 games in a loaded division. I do think the Packers are now, at least on paper, the second best team in the NFC. You guys know I think very highly of the Rams. They were the team that had the closest chance of beating the Eagles in the playoffs last year. If Matt Stafford's healthy, they're a top 3 team. They're my 3 seed. Tampa Bay is my last division winner in the NFC South, but I think it's closer than you think between Tampa Bay and the Atlanta Falcons. My 3 wildcard teams, I do have the Detroit Lions taking a little bit of a step back this year. They're dealing with new coordinators, lots of injuries heading into the season. We saw how that affected the Eagles after big runs in 2017. They struggled with those issues in 2018, 2019, 2020. They also dealt with it in 2023. But Detroit is so talented that I think they're still a playoff team. And then my 6 and 7 seed, the San Francisco 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons. The 49ers, they're very old. They're a top 2 oldest team in the NFL, but they're still very talented. They were so banged up last year that if they stay marginally healthy, their schedule, if you looked at it, it's a 4th place schedule, and it is very easy. I could totally see that team being, 5-2, 5-1 to start the year. I think they're back to being a contender in the NFC. Are they as good as that 2022 Niners team or 2023 that made the Super Bowl? No, they're not that team anymore, but I still think they have one of the best play callers in the NFL in Kyle Shanahan. They still have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, 2 top 3 players at their position. Brock Purdy's a solid quarterback. When Brandon Ayuk eventually comes back, they do have some more weapons. The defense isn't totally depleted of talent. They have Nick Bosa. I like Mikael Williams coming out of Georgia last year in the first round. So I do think the Niners are no longer the Eagles' biggest threat and biggest rival in the NFC like they were for a couple years there. But I do think they get back into the postseason this year. And then my surprise team that gets into the playoffs this year for the first time in a long time is the Atlanta Falcons. I'm kind of drinking the Falcons Kool-Aid. And it's not that I love Michael Penix. I think he's a Tua caliber of player. And no, it's not just because he's a lefty. I think that's the kind of player he is. But when you look across their roster, there's a lot of talent in Atlanta. When you look at their weapons, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. I know the fantasy community rolls their eyes at Kyle Pitts, but he's a solid tight end. Bijan Robinson is a top 5 running back in the NFL. I love what they did in the draft, adding Jalen Walker and James Pierce. They have Leonard Floyd. They got in free agency on the edge. Arnold Ebiketie is a very underrated, ascending young pass rusher that I actually wanted the Eagles to trade for this offseason. So when you look at the Falcons, they've got Jesse Bates and A.J. Terrell still in the secondary. I love them drafting Xavier Watts, the Notre Dame safety, in the second round, a ball hawk that had, 13 interceptions the last 2 years with the Fighting Irish. I'm kind of drinking the Falcons Kool-Aid a little bit. I think, and they have a solid, very underrated offensive line. According to PFF, they were up there with the Eagles in most metrics. That was last year at least, and I know they're banged up at right tackle, but that's a top 5 offensive line in the NFL in 2024. I think the Falcons in a weak division where you get to play the Panthers twice, the Saints twice. I think New Orleans is the worst team in football. Tampa Bay is a really good football team, but I think Atlanta's pretty similar to them skill-wise. I think the Falcons sneak in there as the 7 seed. It was tough. I was trying to decide, who. I think Detroit's a lock to be that 5th seed if Green Bay wins the division. Who were going to be those last 2 seeds? It was challenging because you can make the case. In the NFC, in that, second half of the conference, I think it's a lot better than the AFC. The AFC is more top-heavy, but the NFC in, that 4 to 9 seed range, it's going to be a dogfight because I was thinking about the Chicago Bears with Ben Johnson. The Minnesota Vikings won 14 games last year, and I know Darnold's gone, but maybe J.J. McCarthy can be even better than Sam Darnold last year. That team should be competitive. The Arizona Cardinals, I really like what they did on paper this year. I love their draft. The Seattle Seahawks won 10 games last year. I picked them to make the playoffs, though, the last 2 years in a row because I like Seattle on paper a lot. I loved their draft this year, but fool me 3 times, that's shame on me. So I didn't pick Seattle, but I think they're going to be competitive. Washington made the NFC Championship last year. I am predicting that regression comes, though, and they do miss the postseason this year. New York, even the Giants, I think they're going to be a pain in the butt this year. So there's a lot of teams in the NFC that not everybody can be good, but I think the wild card race for that 6 and 7 seed, it's going to be a dogfight. For me, though, I think the Niners' schedule is a lot easier this year. If they're healthy, they're still a superior team to some of those other rosters that I listed. And of all those other wild cards, the unknowns, it was between, for me, Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, Arizona, and I went with Atlanta. I think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs this year. So there's my NFC playoffs for 2025. seeds 1 through 7. Not going to go through the whole AFC, but my top 7 for the AFC. I have the Baltimore Ravens as the 1 seed, Kansas City's the 2, Buffalo's the 3. I think that's clearly the top 3 contenders in that conference. I actually have the Jacksonville Jaguars shocking the world and beating out the Houston Texans to win the AFC South. And then for me, like, Joe Burrow is just too talented to not be in the playoffs 3 years in a row. So I think they're the 5 seed, the Bengals. Trey Hendrickson is back. They paid Higgins and Chase. I have the Houston Texans as the 6 seed. And then my wild card surprise team in the AFC, I have the New York Jets becoming a poor man's version of like what the 2021 Philadelphia Eagles were with Justin Fields. I think Aaron Glenn, I'm kind of enjoying what the vibe is like in New York, what they're building. I think they're going to run the ball a lot, take care of the football. They have a really good defense. A 3rd place schedule, or is it last place? I can't remember. I think 3rd place. The Patriots were last, but I think New York actually gets into the postseason. Those are my 2 new playoff teams for this year. 3, actually. It's the Jaguars, the Falcons, and then the New York Jets. All right, we will predict the playoffs coming up next, right here on Locked On Eagles. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, guys, let's talk about some of our sponsors on today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. We are sponsored today by Upside. Really excited about Upside joining Locked On for the NFL season. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use our limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but trust me, it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And guys, today's show, we are also brought to you by Gametime. NFL season, we are back this Thursday, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, being at the link for the opener to raise the 2024 Super Bowl banner, surrounded by fans cheering on your team. Let's be honest, like that's what it's all about. Getting tickets, though, it can be a hassle between, queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It can be really frustrating. That's why I personally always use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast and easy and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. You can make sure, too, that on top of getting cheap seats, you're going to get a great stress-free view all on the app. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Gametime today. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Locked On fans want to ask you, football fans in general, want to ask you a favor. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes, I'm thinking about football, so I'm thinking about competing in my head. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. We thank you so much for helping us out. On today's show, we are predicting the 2025 NFL season. I do think still the Eagles are in a tier of their own in the NFC. They're going to be the number 1 seed. But there are some competitors this year, like Micah Parsons going to Green Bay. It's noteworthy, and it helps the Eagles for next week playing the Dallas Cowboys. It helps them in the long term in the NFC East that arguably the best player of those other 3 teams in the division is no longer a player you have to play twice a year. But Green Bay, they're definitely a threat in the NFC. They're the team you played first in the playoffs last year, and that was a close game down the stretch. It was a close game week 1 last year in Brazil. And I think Green Bay is a team to watch. So they're my 2 seed. I've got the Rams the top 3 seed. They're somebody that's going to push it if they can keep the health of that roster throughout the length of the season. I think the NFC is, the AFC has all the star quarterbacks, so it always gets the credit of being like the juggernaut conference. But I think top to bottom, the NFC is a much more complete conference in 2025. Let's predict the playoffs, though. So I put my seeds in AFC 1 through 7 and the NFC 1 through 7 as well. Let me pull up these predictions. So, of course, the Eagles have the bye week, so they are not going to be playing in the wild card round for the first time since 2022, which again is so massive. So the first game is going to be the Green Bay Packers, the 2 seed against the 7 seed Atlanta Falcons. I have the Packers winning that football game, moving on to the divisional round. The Los Angeles Rams, the 3 seed, they play the 6 seed San Francisco 49ers, and that's a battle. But I do think the Rams move on and win that game. The Rams are a superior team, in my opinion, than the Niners. And then the 4-5, ooh, man, I mean, those are 2 really good football teams. The Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. I do think Tampa Bay wins, though, at home, and they move on to the divisional round. So in the second round, we have something that I would be circling as a revenge game that I want to see happen. Eagles, Buccaneers in the divisional round, but this time, Tampa Bay's got to come to Philly. The Eagles have to go to Tampa yet again this regular season in September, and I'm just so sick of that game. The Eagles just cannot win in Tampa Bay. They did in 2023 in the regular season, but normally the Bucs have your number early in the fall in Florida. So this would be great if Tampa has to come to Philadelphia in the divisional round and the Eagles can get some sweet revenge. The Buccaneers are a good, deep team on paper. Baker Mayfield, I think, is a very underrated quarterback, but the Eagles are the better football team. And how sweet would that be to get to the NFC Championship game by beating Tampa? That's awesome. So the Eagles beat the 4 seed Bucs to get back to the NFC Championship for the 3rd time in 4 years. Rams, Packers at Lambeau is a tough game. Going to Lambeau that late in the season, one of the toughest places to play. But I actually do think the Rams, who showed they can play in the snow last year in a battle-tested environment of Philadelphia, nearly pull off that upset. I think the Rams this time, they do it. They go into the 2 seeds building, and this time they get a win over Jordan Love, Micah Parsons, and that Green Bay Packers team. So we have 2 rematches that we're circling for sure. Eagles, Bucs moving on to the NFC title. Eagles, Rams, LA's coming back to the link. And I do think the Eagles get back to the Super Bowl. They get to Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco. They beat the Rams in a close game. In the AFC, again, the Baltimore Ravens, they had the bye week, in my opinion. So it's Chiefs, Jets. I think that's an easy game. Kansas City blows by Justin Fields in New York to get to the divisional round. I had the Buffalo Bills beating the Houston Texans in round 1. Houston, again, I think they're a consistent team, and with CJ Stroud, they're always going to be a playoff contender, but they're just not. They're one step below the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills. I don't think they're there yet. I don't know what they're going to need to get them there, but I think they're right at the top of that second tier, so they lose a close game to Buffalo. And then I have the 5 seed Bengals going into Jacksonville and winning that football game. So for the second round, we've got Ravens, Bengals, and Bills, Chiefs. So the top 4 quarterbacks in football, Lamar versus Joe Burrow, and then Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. I do think Lamar gets into the AFC Championship for the second time in 3 years. He beats Cincinnati. That Baltimore overall roster is just top to bottom, just better than the Bengals. And if Lamar doesn't shoot himself in the foot and act like he's James Harden from the Houston Rockets again, like he does a lot in the playoffs, I think that team's too good not to get to the AFC Championship this year and host a championship game. Bills, Chiefs, this happens, what is this, round 5? Josh Allen's got to go back to Arrowhead. Can he finally do it and beat Mahomes in the playoffs? He's 0-4. I think Allen finally does it and gets to the AFC Championship, but this time, Lamar gets his revenge over Allen in the AFC title. Baltimore gets to the Super Bowl. So we have a mobile quarterback lover's dream in Super Bowl 60. It's Jalen Hurts v. Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley v. Derrick Henry, the 2 best rosters in the NFL going at it. And for me, my heart says the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I do want to believe the Eagles have what it takes to repeat. But what I'll say this. I think the Eagles win this football game if this is what happens. If the Eagles do not get to the Super Bowl this year, like I want to put my heart aside and say it's very hard to get back year after year after year. We saw that in 2023. I think they're the favorite right now to get back. So that's of course I'm predicting them to make it because there's no reason to put Green Bay over them right now or anybody else in the NFC. But let's just say they don't make it to the Super Bowl. Who would be my champion this year? I think Lamar Jackson finally gets it done and gets a ring. I think the Baltimore Ravens, they are such a good roster. If I can't pick, if you said I'm not allowed to take the Eagles, put your money on FanDuel on another future Super Bowl winner this year. Who is it? For me, it's the Baltimore Ravens. And what an awesome game for football fans. If it's Eagles-Ravens in the Super Bowl, like, yeah, Mahomes Hurts, like round 3 would be really cool. It's very LeBron James, Steph Curry-esque. Cavs Warriors, like the NFL's version of that. But for me, Eagles-Ravens is the best game on paper you can get in the Super Bowl from all the talent on both sides of the ball for both teams. So Eagles-Ravens, Super Bowl 60. Hopefully the Eagles repeat. I got to pick them right now because, I mean, there's no team better than them in the NFL. So until I'm proven otherwise, Philadelphia is the reigning champ. All right, guys, we'll wrap up this Friday edition of Locked On Eagles. Coming up next, who wins MVP? Rookies of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year. Got those predictions for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up. We got the regular season coming up on Thursday. College football is underway. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. I'm so excited to get guys like Saquon Barkley on my team, Jalen Hurts. Here's how you play. PrizePicks is simple. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. That's right. And they've got, max discounts weekly on weekends. You've got Dak Prescott's max discount on Thursday of half a passing yard. I've used PrizePicks for a few seasons now, and I love just how simple it is. I can get a lineup in before my coffee even finishes brewing as I'm editing my podcast in the morning. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use our code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, Eagles fans, we're wrapping up this Friday edition of Locked On Eagles, doing our 2025 NFL season-long predictions, including the regular season and the playoffs. Let's get into some individual award predictions now. And for me, when it comes to Eagles, like what individual players win individual awards, I have 2 guys on the Birds that win awards this year. I think Saquon Barkley and Jihad Campbell are the 2 players that win awards in 2025. Saquon Barkley is going to be back-to-back Offensive Player of the Year. I know history tells us when a star running back faces a season where he sees a historic usage rate, and it's a career year. It's one of the greatest individual seasons a running back has ever had in NFL history. Saquon in 2024 had the greatest season a running back has ever had. Normally, history tells you when you look at Terrell Davis, Sean Alexander, Adrian Peterson, DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry is like the one outlier, I guess. But even his numbers dropped. After seasons like Saquon just had, normally running backs, especially that are older like Saquon, they get banged up. They don't put up the same numbers. They're not going to rush for 2,000 yards again. I think Barkley is the outlier. I think when you look at the support system that he's in with Jalen Hurts, with this offensive line, with Jeff Stoutland, when you look at his talent, he doesn't look like this summer he's worn down. Like he still looks as electric, as explosive as he was last year. He didn't get banged up, knock on wood. All summer, he did not get injured. I think, and he's such an athletic, physical freak. I know he has an injury history, but for me, I'm not predicting the drop-off to happen. I think Saquon is still going to be the face of an offense that's the best in the NFL. Like, I still think he is the face of a football team that's the best in the NFL. And for me, that he's going to put up numbers. He's going to have at least, in my opinion, 1,500 to 1,600 rushing yards. If you told me he got back to 2,000, I would not be surprised. I think he's going to be more involved in the receiving game this year to get him the ball in other ways. For me, I think Saquon wins Offensive Player of the Year again. He's the face of an offense that's maybe the best in football, maybe the most complete. So I have Saquon winning Offensive Player of the Year, and I have Jahad Campbell winning Rookie of the Year on defense. For me, he checks all the boxes to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's a player that can make an impact in so many different ways, and the voters don't watch all these games, right? The voters, a lot of the times, are beat reporters that are covering and watching one game all game long, and then they're watching YouTube highlights or box score scouting. So who do they pick? It's the guys that put up the sexy stats. Jahad Campbell, he's going to be able to put up tackles. He's going to be able to put up interceptions, force fumbles, sacks. He's going to blitz the quarterback. He's going to drop back in coverage. He's going to play the run and rack up tackling numbers. So Jahad Campbell, to me, checks all the boxes that normally the committee looks for, voters look for, in a Rookie of the Year. It's why last year, in my opinion, Quinyon Mitchell did not win Rookie of the Year, even though he was, from start to finish last year, the best rookie all year. Jared Verse had the sack numbers. Quinyon Mitchell did not have the interception numbers. So that, to me, is why Quinyon didn't win Rookie of the Year last year. I think Jahad Campbell wins it this season. I think he does what Jalen Carter just couldn't do, got super close, couldn't pull it off, what Quinyon and Cooper DeJean last year couldn't do. I think if Campbell starts all year over Nakobe Dean, and he looks like the way he has in the month of August, in the preseason and in training camp practice, Campbell's winning Rookie of the Year. I was going back and forth between him and James Pierce of the Atlanta Falcons, but right now I think Campbell is my Rookie of the Year favorite. So if I had to guess two Eagles win individual awards this year, I just think Jalen Hurts and Saquon cancel each other out for MVP. I just don't think the voters will pick either one of them. So in my opinion, it's going to be Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and the other one I would say, if there was a third one that's close, Jalen Carter for Defensive Player of the Year would be one to watch. Like if Jalen Carter this year gets double-digit sacks and is just an Aaron Donald-like force, and the Eagles are the 1 seed in the NFC, I could see Jalen Carter being Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's the other one that I would definitely look into. Those are the two Eagles I'm picking for individual awards. It's Jahad Campbell and Saquon Barkley. What about my other awards? MVP, I do have Patrick Mahomes. I feel like this year they're going to air it out more in Kansas City. A little bit of a revenge or get back tour after losing in the Super Bowl last year. When you just look at the way voters go with MVP, sometimes they take turns, right? And they got Allen his. Lamar's had back-to-back, or he's won 2 MVPs. Are they going to give him a third one? This isn't the way it should be based off of, but it is. And normally, the majority of the time, the MVP has to be a top 2 seed in their conference. We know that's Kansas City. I think Mahomes gets MVP. For my Offensive Rookie of the Year, I have Jahad Campbell as Defensive Rookie. My Offensive Rookie is Jackson Dart. Sorry, Eagles fans. I know I'm picking an NFC East rival to win this, but Jackson Dart looked incredible this summer. I think Brian Dable's a really good play caller. I've been a fan of Dart since his Ole Miss days. I think Dart wins it. If he starts, I say Russell Wilson gets like a month of the year and then Dart's ready to go. I think Jackson's going to win that award. And then Defensive Player of the Year. Sorry, Cowboys fans. I got Micah Parsons. I just think he's going to ball out in Green Bay. And it would just be so fitting. Even if you don't believe in the NFL script theory, this just feels like the perfect thing the football gods will and have done in the past. So maybe it's what I want to see happen, but I think Micah Parsons wins Defensive Player of the Year. And then Comeback Player of the Year, I do have Christian McCaffrey. Was injured all last year. I think he carries San Francisco to a playoff spot in 2025. And then Protector of the Year better be Lane Johnson. If he does not win the first Protector of the Year award, if Penei Sewell wins it, we are going to riot. The numbers speak for themselves. Lane Johnson is the best tackle in football. He better win that award in 2025. All right, guys, let me know what you think of my predictions. Hit us up on X at Locked On Birds or at DiBiase LOE. Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Until next Monday, getting you ready for game week. As always, thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.